Every year, thousands of passionate coffee lovers in the UK quit their jobs, rent a tiny industrial unit, and buy a stainless steel coffee roaster, convinced they are building a £1 million financial empire. But here is the brutal, shocking reality almost nobody talks about. Over 80% of these independent specialty roasters will be completely broke within 36 months. They generate hundreds of thousands of pounds in revenue. Their order books look completely full, yet their bank accounts sit at absolute zero. So, where is the money actually disappearing to? And what is the hidden economic secret that allows a select few craft roasters to quietly scale into multi-million-pound cash machines, while everyone else suffers in silent financial ruin? To understand how this invisible trap operates, picture a real founder. Let's call him James. James spends £20,000 of his life savings to buy a sleek, hand-built roasting machine. He places it in an unassuming warehouse on the outskirts of Manchester, launches a polished website, and sets out to source the highest quality, ethically traded green coffee beans from Ethiopia and Colombia. On paper, his business model looks like an absolute money press. He buys raw coffee for roughly £3.50 a kilogram, roasts the beans, packages them in beautiful minimal bags, and sells them to eager local cafes for £22 a kilogram. That is an unbelievable gross margin of over 800%. James genuinely believes he has cracked the code to financial freedom. But then, the real world strikes. The moment James drops those raw green beans into the hot metal drum of his roaster, an invisible tax takes effect. You see, green coffee beans contain water, and during the 12-minute roasting process, that water rapidly evaporates. The beans shrink by 15 to 20% in physical weight. That means for every single ton of raw coffee James purchases with his hard-earned cash, nearly 200 kilograms simply vanishes into thin air as steam. Overnight, his actual raw material cost per kilogram spikes by 20% before he has even paid a single bill for gas, electricity, or labor. But here is where the story takes a much darker turn. Because raw material shrinkage is only the beginning of James's financial nightmare. Driven by early enthusiasm, James decides to expand. He pounds the pavement, knocking on doors, and finally lands 10 popular independent cafes across the city. His monthly revenue instantly doubles to £15,000. From the outside, James looks like a massive success story, but inside his office, panic sets in. Because those 10 cafes do not pay cash on delivery, they demand 30-day and sometimes 60-day credit terms. James has to buy expensive raw coffee, roast it, pack it, and deliver it today. But he will not see a single penny of cash back for 2 whole months. His business is growing, yet he cannot afford to pay his own rent, which brings us to a massive question. Why would a founder keep pushing forward when cash flow is actively suffocating them? The answer lies in the ultimate trap of the UK commercial coffee market, the wholesale hardware illusion. You see, cafe owners almost never buy their own espresso machines. A professional, high-end commercial machine costs up to £15,000. A new cafe simply cannot afford that upfront expense. So, to secure those crucial wholesale bean accounts, James is forced to make a dangerous deal. He buys the espresso machines himself, leases them to the cafes, and promises free maintenance and barista training, provided they sign an exclusive 3-year contract to buy their coffee from him. Look closely at what just happened here, because this changes everything. James thought he was running a craft artisan coffee company. In reality, he has been forced to become an unlicensed, high-risk equipment financing bank. He is taking on massive personal debt to place hardware inside someone else's business, praying that those cafes stay open long enough for him to recover his original investment. If just 2 of those cafes go bankrupt, James is left holding thousands of pounds in depreciating machinery and unpaid invoices he will never, ever collect. So, how do the rare roasters who actually build true, lasting wealth escape this devastating trap? They stop relying on local cafes entirely and execute a brilliant, hidden strategic pivot into B2B retainers and white-label co-packing. Consider the quiet roasteries operating in the industrial parks just outside London. They do not spend money on consumer marketing. They do not run aesthetic Instagram accounts, and they certainly do not lease expensive equipment to high-street coffee shops. Instead, they target tech offices, corporate headquarters, luxury hotels, and online subscription brands. These corporate clients pay upfront, on automated monthly retainers, for thousands of kilograms of custom-branded coffee bags. The roaster does not care whose name is printed on the matte black packaging. They only care about continuous, reliable, high-volume production by running fully automated, 50-kilogram air roasters 24 hours a day. They drive their operational cost per bag down to absolute rock bottom. They trade fragile vanity margins for rock-solid, scalable cash flow, while small craft roasters are fighting over pennies at local weekend markets. These invisible industrial players are quietly generating millions in pure, predictable profit, and yet, even these giant industrial roasters face a global economic threat that can destroy their profit margins in a single afternoon. The foreign exchange volatility trap. Green coffee is an internationally traded commodity, priced exclusively in US dollars on the New York market, but UK roasters earn almost every single penny of their revenue in British pounds. When the pound drops in value against the dollar, every single sack of green coffee sitting in a UK warehouse instantly becomes more expensive. Even if global coffee prices do not change by a single cent, a sudden 10% drop in the currency exchange rate can completely erase a roaster's profit margin for an entire quarter. Smaller roasters are forced to swallow these massive financial losses, or raise prices on their already struggling cafe clients and risk losing them to competitors. But the sophisticated enterprise roasters do not leave their fate to currency fluctuations. They act like Wall Street traders, employing financial experts to execute complex forward hedging contracts. They lock in green coffee prices and foreign currency rates 12 to 18 months into the future, insulating their balance sheets from global chaos while their smaller rivals bleed out. And that leads us to the final, most important revelation of all: the secret competitive moat that protects elite UK roasters from being crushed by competition. It is not the unique origin of their beans, it is not their secret roast profiles, and it is definitely not the art on their packaging. It is total supply chain lock-in. The top roasters build an interconnected operational ecosystem that makes it almost impossible for clients to leave. They do not just supply the coffee, they supply the equipment, the water filtration systems, the specialized cleaning chemicals, the takeaway cups, and even the point-of-sale software. When a business relies on a roaster for their entire daily workflow, switching to a cheaper bean supplier is no longer a simple decision. It becomes a painful, expensive, operational nightmare. The roaster has transformed a basic, highly replaceable agricultural commodity into a mandatory, high-margin utility contract. That is the exact moment a fragile local business becomes a highly valuable enterprise asset, capable of attracting private equity investments and multi-million-pound buyouts. When you look at the UK coffee industry through this lens, everything changes. The customer sitting in a warm, aesthetic cafe believes they are paying £4 for a cup of handcrafted passion, but behind that simple cup lies a high-stakes financial game of currency hedging, equipment debt, shrink rates, and corporate lock-in. The roasters who fail are the ones who view coffee purely as an art form. The ones who build fortunes are those who understand the invisible economic machinery running behind every single bean, controlling the flow of money long before the first cup is ever poured.